Good afternoon, YouTube. Old Rusty here again. Let's walk back, forth, back, forth. We're starting to take ourselves a little too pretentiously. 222 subscribers today, people, of low-quality content. And I promise I'll keep bringing the same. So today, I want to talk about kelp. Kelp blocks as a fuel. You can't eat it, although you can't even eat this stuff. You need the dried stuff. We don't care about food today. Today, I want to talk about it as a fuel. Kelp is an interesting fuel choice. One kelp block will allow you to smelt 20 items of anything. My cooker's going to go here. And when it's done, we'll come back to this. Now, one smoker will smelt one item in 5 seconds. That's really good. So that means that it's going to go through this whole block of kelp in approximately 100 seconds. And it's a great way to go ahead and cook any of your food, smelt any of your items. You can even use it, as I'm doing, to take the kelp to make more dried kelp that I can then turn into another kelp block for more fuel. This might sound good at first. This presents something of a problem, though. If you are interested in utilizing kelp as a fuel source and not a food source, I started looking into this. For me to smelt kelp with kelp, I'm not getting 20 blocks here. I'm only getting 11 because these first 9 kelp let's just move those around some. Oop. Those first 9 kelp are going to always be spent to replace my kelp block, which means that one kelp block is really only giving me a net 11 source fuel game. So that's 11 items I can smelt with a block of kelp when I'm using kelp to break more kelp. Kelp, kelp, kelp. So, there is another way that you can sit here and cook kelp with no food required. One campfire will hold up to 4 items to cook. After 30 seconds, those items will pop off. They will be dried kelp that I can then utilize to make a kelp block for my actual fuel farm instead of wasting valuable fuel to make more fuel. Now, you can't automate the campfire. You have to place it here manually, but you can also just hold your trigger down, in my case, and move back and forth. What if I want to speed this up a lot? So this right here is 9 campfires. In 30 seconds, this will make enough kelp for me to make 4 blocks. For me to get the equivalent of that, factoring in this inefficiency of burning fuel to get more fuel, I would need 11 smokers to make the exact same amount of kelp blocks. I should say to make the same amount of fuel sources as I would these campfires. To put this in another perspective, this is the inefficiency. This right here, using campfires, is 9 blocks. Although I may have miscounted here and that might be 8. Either way, this percentage stands. This is what I get out of the campfire in order for me to be able to smelt this many items. If I'm using smokers, I need 82% more. Everything past this here, this is all the fuel I'm wasting to make this other fuel. You could overcome this through just brute force, or you can decide that there's a better way. The old rusty way. To get more efficient for you to make this food or fuel source. See, right here. It's finished smelting. I accidentally threw more in there. So what am I getting for this? I am getting 9 kelp, dried kelp, to replace the block that I used. And then, this is my profit. 11. So instead of 20 items, I'm only smelting 11 per kelp. You might as well just use blaze rods at that point. They come out better. So if you can't interact directly with the campfire except via the player, what does that leave you with? Well, if you use rails, let's go over in the survival here. How quickly can I get rid of a stack of kelp on campfires? Pretty quick. Because I'm just going to go back and forth. Oh, I want to plant more. This isn't an AFK farm. This is just an efficiency farm. I'm sitting here running through all these stacks. Click over to the next one. Keep going. And I'm just going to keep smelting away. You could automate this with some droppers, giving you a fuel source, lessening up the number of campfires. I mean, this is a lot. It's kind of meant to. It's on purpose. But just look how fast I am going through kelp. And all that kelp is smelting down in 30 seconds. And more importantly, I'm not wasting precious product. Meanwhile, let's just get here. My hopper cart is already making me more. That's a lot of dried kelp for free. Using... Oh, and I've got even more popping off now. It'll go. It'll run around. It'll do its thing. Let's go back in the... I like flying. So, all this kelp that I'm getting, all this wonderful dried kelp, can easily be handled, crafted into kelp blocks to smelt for fuel. And I'm not wasting any extra blocks to make more. Is this ideal if you're running a long-term automation thing around your farm and that you just leave it running in the background? Well, I'd say no, not at all. But if you're just looking to run a giant fuel array or even a little one and you want to get the most out of your bone meal, or if you're using one of the natural-based farms, you want to get the most out of that, consider the campfire. You can easily block the smoke with 2 blocks high. That'll stop all of it if it's an annoying irritation for you. It is for me. I hate how it looks. Well, that's not going to... Yeah, that will, ironically enough. But consider this. This is all fuel. If I go and use this smoker, I'm losing 9 out of my 20 item slots to make more fuel to continue to smelt more kelp. That's a waste of bone meal. If you've got a natural growth farm, that's even worse. Then you're just wasting more kelp that you grew. You have to increase the size of your footprint for 82% just to factor in what you need to run your smoker. If you want kelp as a fuel, not a food, it is delicious, although it has a very low saturation. Consider using campfires. And what one lacks, multiple can. You want to move yourself around? Get on a minecart. Oh. Run back and forth, or do it manually. It doesn't matter. Don't feel like messing with rails and minecart hoppers? Just put a hopper underneath one of these. Put the glass right above it, so that whenever they finally pop off, they're not going to go flying everywhere, because otherwise I have found they will kind of launch up into the air. Some will land on the side. They won't get caught by the hopper. If you put that little collision box right there when they're done, though, you're going to be good to go. And then all this kelp is just fuel. Sometimes they'll fly off. Sometimes they won't. They might hit each other when they're flying in the air. So put that block up there. There we go. See, perfect example right there. But you have that block there. They're going to stay on there. If you put a hopper directly underneath the campfire, it'll pull it out. See, gone. Gone. Pulls it right out. You can have a hopper chain with less. Move around yourself. Automate it with fun with rails. I love minecarts. But consider this inefficiency when you're calculating out, do I want to use a smoker in my kelp farm? And I would say no. Campfires, so much better. Because why do you want to waste all this extra kelp right here just so you can get the same amount? Old Rusty out.